فألهمها فجورها وتقواها بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات
Please use the salawat for Brother Mahdi. قسمی که قبلا ذکر شد امشب شب شهادت ششمین اختر آسمان تابناک امامت و ولایت حضرت امام جعفر صادق علیه السلام است و همچنان برنامه ختم و فاتحه برای درگذشت مرحوم مغفوره بیبی حاجی والده گرامی برادر محترم نصرت الله نوروزی برگزار گردید که خداوند ان شاء الله مرحوم مغفوری تازه گذشته را غریق رحمت بگردانه و جمیع اموات. بعد از برنامه ان شاء الله نماز و بعد از نماز صرف طعام است. As mentioned earlier, tonight we're commemorating the martyrdom of our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar Sadeq alayhi salatu wassalam. And we have our dear respected brother, Dr. Shakil Virjee, will have a speech. Please welcome him to the member with a loud salawat.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على Before we begin, let us pause for a moment and pray for the maghfirat of the dear beloved mother of our dear brother Nasratullah Naurozi, who passed away in Afghanistan. The loss of a mother is not only a loss of that relationship that a person has with a parent, but it is also a loss of the rahmah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings through a mother to their family, and it's indeed a huge loss. So before we begin, let us recite Surah Fatiha and pray for her maghfirat, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين أما بعد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتاب مبين والقرآن المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن الناس من يجادل في الله بغير علم ولا هدى ولا كتاب منير صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are tonight commemorating the martyrdom of our sixth holy Imam, Imam Jafar Sadeq alayhi salatu wassalam. And in commemorating this great Imam of ours, I can dwell into the history of the Imam, but the story of the history of the Imam can be something that is quite available if you go and search in the internet and you look at lectures that have been given about the autobiography of our Imam, and you will find this history. But tonight, I want to focus on a very important hadith from the Imam alayhi salam that has been quoted in the Lantern of the Path. It's a book in which the hadith of the Imam has been cited. In Arabic, this book is called Misbah Sharia. And it has been translated. It is available in Farsi and in English, and one should try and read this book because it has a hadith of the Imam, things that you and I can learn from a lot. Before we begin, I just want to emphasize one point, that the Imamat of Imam Jafar Sadeq alayhi salam started in a period that was towards the end of the Banu Umayyah Caliphate and the beginning of the Abbasid Caliphate. It was in between these two periods that the Imam took on the role of the Imamatship. Because there was a fight between the Banu Umayyah and the Banu Abbas, there was a huge revolution, there was a lot of things that was going on. In fact, Imam was approached by some of his relatives and some of the people from the Abbasid family to participate in this war of this revolution, but Imam refused to participate. There were many reasons for why he refused to participate. One can say from the way that the Imam conducted himself during this period of time that perhaps it was because of his hikmat, because of his wisdom and the knowledge that was given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he should take advantage of this period of time when the rulership was not paying attention to the Imams, and take advantage of this time to spread knowledge. It isn't surprising that we find that during the time of Imam Sadeq alayhi salam and Imam Baqir alayhi salam, the numbers of ahadith that have been quoted by these two Imams are more than all the ahadith that were been quoted by all the Imams combined. This is one of the fadail of these two Imams, that they were able to bring to the Muslim Ummah the teachings of Rasulullah in form of ahadith that exceeded the number of ahadith that were quoted by all the Imams together. So this is a very significant point for us to realize that the Imam felt that he should take advantage of this period of time when things were in chaos to discuss and to teach the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, the teachings of Rasulullah, and the teachings of the Quran, to the Muslim Ummah. So, the first thing that before I start quoting the ahadith, I started with this verse of the Holy Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يُجَادِلُ فِي اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. That there are people amongst the mankind who argue about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who dispute about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowledge. بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Not only that, بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ وَلَا هُدًى, without any guidance, وَلَا كِتَابٍ مُنِيرٍ, and any book that is, that is enlightened with knowledge. And the reason why I picked this verse of the Holy Quran is that one of the things that we will find, that knowledge by itself is not the measure of the character of a human being. In fact, there is a hadith that is also been quoted in this Misbahul Sharia, where the Imam says that if a person dies with a reputation that he was the most knowledgeable person, is more wretched than a person who dies with a reputation of what his good deeds were. So knowledge without action is meaningless according to this hadith. It's the action that one does with the knowledge, that basically counts. Imam says that knowledge is the basis of every sublime state. Now, I'm reading the English translation by the person who translated this Misbahul Sharia, and I also, with the English translation, had to go to the dictionary to figure out what the meanings of these words were, because they are very powerful words. He says that knowledge is the basis of every sublime state. What is a sublime state? A sublime state is the highest spiritual state that a person can achieve. A connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which also requires that that state is a culmination of every high station that a person can climb up to. Very powerful hadith. That if I were to put into simple English, that the essence of a human being and the knowledge of why I am here, what my purpose in life is here, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created me, is not, cannot be achieved without knowledge. And it has to be the right type of knowledge that will take me to these ranks. He continues to say that knowledge is the ray of gnosis and the heart of belief. What is gnosis? Gnosis is the ability to learn the spiritual truth, or to realize the spiritual truth of everything that is around us. And through that, the faith and the belief, starts to get imbibed and buried into the heart of a believer. Now, why I'm saying this is because, generally speaking, when we talk about knowledge, and one of the things that one should realize, that when Imam alayhi salam got the opportunity to teach, to distribute knowledge, to distribute the ilm that he had, it was not limited to religious knowledge. It was not limited to fiqh and Quran and those type of things. There are those who say that most famous scholars like Jabir ibn Hayyan, who was a scientist, also received his knowledge from Imam Sadeq alayhi salatu wasalam. And there are many other instances in which Imam is being quoted as having been the originator of a lot of the scientific knowledge that started at that time, of which we are benefiting even today. So his basis of knowledge was not only knowledge of Quran and knowledge of Hadith and how to pray and how to perform wudu and how to fast, but also the realization of how organized this entire world is and how things are put together by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so much so that if we understand it, only through that are we able to understand the glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So knowledge is not limited to just the religious type of knowledge. However, what is the purpose of knowledge? Why should you and I search and seek this kind of knowledge? And what is the purpose for you and I to get knowledge? In this other hadith where the Imam talks about, he talks about what ruins people who have knowledge. What caused the tabahi of people with knowledge. And this will enlighten us, inshallah. He says that men of knowledge are ruined by 8 things. So if you look at the opposite of this, if you don't have these 8 things, then knowledge can really enhance you as a human being in terms of your character and your relationship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says, men of knowledge are ruined by 8 things. Greed and miserliness. Okay, the greed of this dunya and, to be a selfish person. Showing off. A person who is arrogant, who shows off. Love of praise. A person who likes to be praised all the time. Delving into things whose reality cannot be reached. To go after types of things that have absolutely no purpose of benefit in your life. The affection by taking excessive pains to beautify their speech with superfluous expression. Sometimes people who ascend the mimbar or who are giving speeches in any type of, in any kind of a situation, they don't focus on the substance of what they are talking about, but they focus on their khitabat, on how beautifully they are talking about what they are talking about, and what language they use and how they put poetry together to try and show off how good they are and how eloquent they are in the way they speak. The lack of modesty is another thing that ruins a person who has knowledge. A person who boasts, and those people who do not act upon what they know. So if you try and get a summary, we can go into each and every one of these and discuss it, but I want to just talk about a couple of things, hopefully inshallah to enlighten some of the things that we can talk about. If you see in this, there is this idea of boastfulness and showing off. You and I, when we are able to achieve something, when I, for example, graduated, say, from Harvard University, and I come into the community and the people are not paying any attention to me, I want to try and tell people that I just graduated from Harvard University, and somehow make it appear that you would realize that I'm a graduate. My purpose is not about humility. I'm trying to show off where I graduated from. If I have a new car, I start a business, I am successful in life, I want to show off about those types of things. This is the type of things that feeds my ego. And a person who does anything to feed his or her ego, his knowledge or her knowledge is not having the right effect that knowledge needs to have, on a person. Now, when we talk about knowledge, there are 2 categories that I want to define based on this ahadith. If you look into the Quran, the first defect or the first vice that the Quran talks about in regards to the first sin that was ever committed was what? And who committed it? Iblis. Iblis was arrogant. Iblis said that I am superior to this creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of the material superiority that I have. Therefore, I will not perform sujood on Prophet Adam alayhi salam. He was arrogant about it. Quran gives example of other people who are arrogant. You talk about Fir'aun. Fir'aun is mentioned all the time in the Quran, and he's described as this arrogant person who was trying to convince people that he was the highest authority of everything that existed. In fact, he said, Allah Rabbukumul A'la, I am your highest Lord. He taught himself as a God to the people. This is the highest level of arrogance. Usually, you will find that people who are jahil, who lack knowledge, or who don't have the proper understanding of the knowledge that they have, will act in this way. Who is the other one? What are the other things that the Quran talks about? Quran, some places, talks about certain prophets who have ilm, who have wisdom, and who act in a certain type of way that if we are not mindful of what they are doing, we would think that they are arrogant. But in fact, they are not arrogant, they are confident about themselves. There is a big difference between being arrogant and being confident. If I come into a community and I speak confidently about something, sometimes people will interpret that as arrogance. And it's not arrogance, it's just that you are so sure about what you are talking about that you talk about it in a way that is, that is without any defect, and you talk about it with confidence. There is a difference between that and arrogance. Let me give you an example. When Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam was being released from the prison after he had interpreted the dreams of the king. You all know the story. The king had a dream. He was trying to find what is the meaning of this dream. And he told his, his confidants, the wazirs over there, and so on and so forth. Nobody could interpret those dreams. And then one of the companions who was in the prison with Prophet Yusuf, who has been released, tells the king that I know a person who can give you the meaning of these dreams. So Prophet Yusuf, the king asked and summoned, Prophet Yusuf, and he said that go and ask this person for the meaning of these dreams, and Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam gives the ta'wil, gives the meaning of the dream. The king is so impressed. He is so impressed that what does he do? He says that I am now going to select this person to come and be my private advisor. He's going to be my private advisor. After all these people that were around him, all the wazirs, all the ministers, everybody that was around him for years and years, he says, I'm going to just neglect all of this, and I'm going to take this person out of prison, and I'm going to make him my private advisor. Do you know what was the first reaction of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam when he got summoned for this? What did he do? He said, no, I'm not interested until you satisfy certain conditions. Now that's not arrogance, my dear brothers and sisters. That's confidence. He has knowledge. He had been given, attributed good knowledge. So he is now from the prison saying to the king, I don't want this job that you are giving me until you satisfy certain conditions. What were his conditions? His condition first was that I want to exonerate myself from why I had been put in the prison, because I was accused falsely by the women who had accused him for whatever they had accused him for. I don't want to get into the details of the story, but he says, I want a trial, I want a retrial, and I want to exonerate myself that I am not guilty of the crimes that these women had, had implied upon me. The king agrees. Says, okay. And there is a retrial, and of course Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam is exonerated. Then the king says, okay, now will you take the job? Prophet says, yes. But aj'alni khaza'inil ard. Make me in charge of the treasures of Egypt. A guy that's coming out from the prison is telling the king that now that you have brought me out and you want me to be your personal advisor, I want you to make me the treasurer of the khazain, of the treasury of your government. Inni hafizun. Okay, I am the guardian of it. I know what I'm doing. I will protect it. Inni hafizun alim. And I am the most knowledgeable of how to distribute this wealth, this money. Why? Because there is a danger that is going to come upon this community. There's going to be a famine that's going to be coming upon this community. And I am the only one who knows how to distribute this treasure and this wealth in a way that I am going to be able to save lives. And I will be able to curtail the famine that's going to come up. Now, if we look at this, what did Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam have in his resume? What did he have in his resume? He had a few things, and I'm going to talk about it. One, what was it? He had faced the jealousy of his brothers who had thrown him into a well. He was bought like a slave and brought into the house of the minister of Egypt. He worked there as a slave boy inside the minister's house. That was his resume. What else? He was able to withhold himself with the shaitaniyat that the wife of the Aziz had put upon him. He was able to avoid that. And the rest of the time, he was inside the prison. That was his resume. And with this resume, he was coming to the king of Egypt and saying to them that make me the treasurer, and I am going to be in charge of how this wealth is going to be distributed amongst the people because I want to save lives. This is the confidence that a person could have as a result of knowledge. He had divine knowledge to be able to interpret dream. But on top of that, he also had personal experiences. The jealous brothers that he had to deal with. Working inside the house of the minister, okay, and being able to see what was going on and understanding how the government of Egypt was working. And then he was inside the prison and he understood the jurisdiction system of the prison at that time. He was with the most, the most lowest of the people inside the prison and understood their plight and their difficulties that these people were facing inside the prison. So he was coming with that knowledge, at the same time. But that knowledge that he had gave him the power of being able to become the treasurer of Egypt, and then the story goes on from there. The purpose of mentioning this, my dear brothers and sisters, is that any kind of knowledge that you and I are trying to attain, any kind of experience that you and I are trying to achieve, has to be targeted towards being able to achieve this level of confidence so that you can do good with this knowledge. You can put this knowledge into action for good. Let's look at another example. Now, this is an example. I was talking about materialism, right? If a sister here was given a solitaire diamond from her husband as a gift, an anniversary gift or something, 2-carat, 3-carat diamond, it shouldn't surprise us that if she's sitting amongst other sisters, she will have her hand moving in the light until people will notice what she's wearing. And then say, oh, mashallah, yeah. How did you know? Oh, yeah, my husband gave it to me. She's showing off this wealth, this diamond that her husband has given to her. You and I also, in our businesses, anything that we do, when we want to let people know anything that's going to feed our ego, we're going to try and show it off. Who was one of the most powerful prophet that is mentioned inside the Quran? Most powerful prophet. In terms of wealth, in terms of power, in terms of miracles and things that he could do. Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam. Prophet Sulaiman knew the language of the animals. The jinn were under his control, and in fact, the jinn were so scared of him that even when he had died while leaning on a staff, as long as they thought that he was alive, they kept on working in the courtyard of the palace of Prophet Sulaiman. That was the kind of power that he emanated. But then you see the part of Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam when they went into the wadi of the ants, Surah Al-Naml, if you recite that, and the leader of the ants talked to the other ants and said, "Oh ants, go inside your dwellings, because Sulaiman Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam is coming with his army, and he will trod upon us and kill upon us, وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. Without him knowing, because we are so tiny, he would not even realize that he has trod upon us. Prophet Sulaiman, this powerful, powerful king, you know, in fact, Prophet Sulaiman, I'll get to that in a minute. He was so powerful that the animals, the jinn were part of his army, the birds were part of his army, and he could even hear this little ant that was talking to the other ant, saying that, hide inside your dwellings, so that Sulaiman should not come and kill us while he is not aware that we are there. What was the reaction of Prophet Sulaiman? He smiled. And then he made this dua. Rabbi awzi'ni an ashkura ni'mataka allati an'amta alayya. That my Lord, grant me the ability to thank you for this ni'mah that you have given to me. He considered this power not something that he made on his own. He acknowledged that whatever power that he had came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rabbi awzi'ni an ashkura ni'mataka allati alayya wa an a'mala salihan tarza, and make me do those deeds that are pleasing to you. This is the most powerful king after hearing a tiny little ant, you know, telling its other ant, the other ants to hide so that they don't trod over him. And the ant acknowledges that if Sulaiman alayhi salam comes and he kills us, it's going to be accidental. So the ant trusts that Prophet Sulaiman is not going to do this on purpose. Just this ni'mah, Prophet Sulaiman asked Allah to give him the ability to thank for this ni'mah. There is another place in the Holy Quran where Prophet Sulaiman makes this dua, and in this dua he says to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that grant me this power, this wealth, this ni'mah that you have not granted to anybody else, and you are not going to be able to, you are not going to grant to anybody after me. If you listen, this is a dua in the Quran. I'm not, you know, so this is direct quote. I don't have the Arabic version of this. If you listen to this dua, what would you think? He says, what is this prophet doing? He's saying to Allah, give me everything that you have never given to anybody else, and give it to me so much so that after me, you're not going to give to anybody else. Is this the dua of a prophet? Is this the dua of somebody who has no ego? Is this the dua of somebody who doesn't have the love of wealth? But then we have to ask ourselves, what is the impetus? What is the catalyst that is making Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam makes this dua? And here we come again to the knowledge of Prophet Sulaiman. Prophet Sulaiman is so confident, the tafsir of this. He is so confident that whatever wealth, whatever power, whatever ability Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to him, he will have control over his nafs. He will have complete control over his nafs, and whatever he gets, he's not going to allow it to affect his ego in any kind of way. So when Imam Sadeq alayhi salam is talking about knowledge that you and I should go out there and acquire, the understanding that you and I should have is that it should be that kind of knowledge that while it gives me the ability to do a lot of things, while it gives me the ability to be powerful, knowledge is power. While it makes me powerful, you know, because if I am the only one who can do something and I am needed somewhere, and if I am being summoned to do these things, I'm the only one who is able to do it. If I'm a certain type of surgeon, and I'm the only one in the whole world who can do this particular kind of surgery, and if I'm asked to go and do this surgery, I should go there not with my collars up that I am the only one that can do it, but I should go with the ability. Ya Allah, this is because of your grace that I am able to do. I am the only one who is able to do surgery. That's the kind of the power that knowledge should give me, that it gives me confidence, but it keeps me humble. It gives me power, but it makes me equal to everybody that is around me. And I should feel equal to everybody that is around me. This is what Imam Sadeq alayhi salam in this Misbah al-Sharia, in this particular hadith, is trying to talk about. And that is the knowledge, brothers and sisters, that Imam Jafar Sadeq alayhi salam, was trying to impart to all of us during the time that he was the Imam. Unfortunately, just like all the Imams, whenever the hukumat, the kingship, the rulership, the authorities, that they feel, because even though the Imam did not have a big army, even though the Imam did not have all kinds of wealth or any physical worldly power, his only power was what? Knowledge. That's what his only power. His only power was his character, his humility, okay, his ability to be approachable to his community, and the ability to attract the community towards him, to come and learn from him. That was his power. That's all he had. But he had no ability, militarily or otherwise, to overthrow the government that was there at that time. But the government continuously kept feeling threatened by the presence of the Imam. So in one occasion, Mansur Dayaniki, who was the Caliph, the Abbasid Caliph at that time, invites the Imam to Samarra. He keeps him in Samarra for some time. Imam is able to convince him that I want to go back to Medina, and he's finally able to go back to Medina. And while he was in Medina, narrations say that Mansur basically put up a plan together through which our Imam alayhi salam was poisoned and was martyred. And today is the day of the commemoration of the Shahadat of the Imam. There was a picture earlier during the Khatm Quran, or a little bit after that, that showed the picture of Jannatul Baqi at night time. Very desolate picture of Jannatul Baqi. That is the location for those people who have not been to Medina. Inshallah, may Allah grant us all the ability to go for ziyarah to Medina, inshallah. The four Imams are buried right next to each other, okay, in Jannatul Baqi. There was a time, and if you go and search in the internet, that there was a shrine above these graves, which was basically decimated by the Saudi government in like 1925 or 1926. And the picture that you saw there is the condition of the graves of our Imams, that we go and find the way it is today. It's a gloomy picture that the powers in those days and the powers that are here today want to suppress the embodiment of knowledge and purity of humanity in the way that, the Jannatul Baqi is sitting at right now. For all of us, we should not look at that picture and feel glim about it, because you know why? Despite doing all of that, in a month's time, the Hajj season will start. In the month of Rajab, people went for Umrah. In the month of Ramadan, people went for Umrah. And without fail, those who believe in the Imam, who have faith in the Imam, who consider the Imam as their Imam, were flocking towards Jannatul Baqi and crowding Jannatul Baqi to go and perform the ziyarah, of the Imam. So our goal for tonight, brothers and sisters, in terms of knowledge, in terms of the summary for today, is that don't waste time going after knowledge that doesn't benefit you in a very meaningful kind of a way. Yes, go to the universities, learn. Go to madrasas and learn. Speak to scholars and learn. But in the hearts and in your mind, you should have this idea that the reason why I'm learning is so that I can become a better person, a confident person, but I should also be a person who is able to serve my community in the best way possible, inshaAllah wa ta'ala. Let us raise our hands and make this dua. Ya Allah, we ask you to grant the sawab of this majlis, to the maghfirat of the marhuma, the mother of brother Nasratullah Nawrozi. Grant the sawab of this majlis to her and make it the basis for her to elevate her station in the akhirah, inshaAllah wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, we pray that you keep our community in the right path, you keep our community in the search of knowledge that is meaningful, inshallah. And Ya Allah, we pray, especially in the circumstances that we live in today, to hasten the reappearance of our Imam and grant us the tawfiq to be amongst his companions and believers. Let us recite Amma Yujib 5 times and pray for Shafa and Mariz of everybody that is here, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَا وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّا يُجِيبُ ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. الفاتحة. شفاء المرضى. We have about 5 minutes for Salatul Maghrib. For those who need to refresh their wudu, please go ahead. And the volunteers, inshallah, please set up the janamaz for Salah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.